Hey guys, welcome back to Reserved Investments on YouTube. Today I am going to be giving you 5 of my top tips that I see sorely lacking or missing in this wonderful bubble of asset prices that we're seeing that's dominating the antiques and collectibles trade. Now I know a lot of you out there, you're involved on the pop culture side of the collectibles trade, meaning Pokemon, Magic the Gathering, vintage video games, and the like. However, on the antique side of the trade, prices are soaring as well. We're seeing ridiculous prices being paid for certain segments of the rare coin marketplace right now, the currency marketplace, vintage advertising, firearms, edged weapons, even collectible first edition books, historical artifacts, and artwork are not immune from this trend. There is something that is propelling asset prices higher in the antiques and collectibles trade at present time. And part of that has to do with actions being taken by the Fed and the central banks of most industrialized economies. Now, I'm not going to get into those specifics in this particular video. What I am going to tell you is I'm going to give you 5 top tips as to how to navigate this new terrain. Because I don't know if the current record-breaking auction prices we're seeing right now are going to last 6 months, 5 years, 10 years, or 15 years. What I do know is that markets on the collectible side of the trade are extremely linear, meaning at some point, if those markets cannot evolve, transform, and transition to the antique side of the trade, and by the way, guys, you have decades upon decades to wait for that to happen in most cases, those markets could potentially at some point sputter out, stabilize, or even die out altogether. Again, I'm not going to name specifics, but if you look back in the 1980s and the 1990s, and I've mentioned this before in other videos, if you see what transpired with vintage toy trains, Western-based toy collectibles, all those particular markets pretty much sputtered out. At this point, nobody is investing, with few exceptions, in Western-based toy collectibles and vintage toy railroads for the long term. It's not a valued investment in the collectible side of the trade, and it's certainly not a valued investment on the antique side of the trade. So that's what needs to happen in a lot of these pop culture markets for those prices to continue going in that direction. They need to transform and they need to evolve over the next several decades. Now, on the antique side of the trade, those markets are more inherently cyclical. So what happens is certain collecting markets on that side of the trade, they come into vogue, they become popular, then they start to fade out and they evolve, and then 10, 20 years later, they become popular once again. That's what happens in the markets for antique furniture, certain segments of, believe it or not, collectible first edition books. Even coins and currency all go through predictable cycles that you can actually profit from just understanding the markets and the cycles that entertain those collecting categories. Now, getting back to the purpose of this video, I'm going to state my 5 top tips that I see people making mistakes with in today's day and age when they're investing in antiques and collectibles. The first tip that I want to state to you guys, and this has helped me out tremendously, is learn to let go. I don't care if we're talking your financial life. I don't care if it's personal relationships. I don't care if it's dating with significant others. If you get involved with any type of toxic business relationships, personal relationships, relationships with women, or if you're a woman watching this, relationships with men, vice versa, you need to learn to let go of things that no longer benefit you. This applies double in the antiques and collectibles trade. There's too many people coming to me saying, Sean, I just made $30,000 in Pokemon cards. And the question that I have for them is, okay, then why aren't you selling? And they go, well, Sean, it could go to $50,000. I could make $70,000, $100,000 in these cards. You need to learn to let go. Now, before we go any further, I'm not telling you to get a divorce or break up with your significant other or dissolve any business relationships you have or even sell your coveted collections. What I am telling you to do, you have to have a mindset when you get involved in these markets. These markets in the antiques and collectibles trade, they are not on par or akin to financial markets. We are talking about very small niche markets overall. So what you have to be able to do is go, okay, I have this uncommon item, this rare item, or even this common as day item that I paid X number of dollars for that is now worth 3 or 4 times the price. Is this something that if I let go and I sold and locked in my profits, is this something I'm going to be able to find again? If the answer is yes, and you would be able to find that object again with very little work on your part, you should consider selling it for that particular financial gain. Remember, guys, you make the most money in the antiques and collectibles trade on short-term speculative flips. That's why a lot of you guys that are playing in vintage video games, Pokemon, modern era sports cards, Magic the Gathering, vintage toys, comic books, your heart and your mind are in the right place. The problem is you're getting too caught up in the nostalgia. You're getting too caught up in the euphoria of these speculative markets to the point where you can't see them for what they are. And this is probably one of my most fascinating pieces of advice that I give that nobody takes. Tip 2, don't deal in absolutes. None of you guys watching this, as far as I know, are Sith Lords, are you? If you are, then you can deal in absolutes. Well, a lot of you guys coming into the market for antiques and collectibles, you like to deal in absolutes. I have people that come to me for my consulting services, and we get involved in a hefty phone call, and they'll say, Sean, I made literally $50,000 on this Magic the Gathering collection, but I don't want to sell it because I'm too attached to it. That's fine. You don't have to sell all of it. You just need to sell some of it. Cash out and lock in some of those gains. Put them in long-term financial assets or real estate, something that's going to grow in value over the long term where you don't have to babysit. S&P 500 index fund, total stock market index fund, real estate, whether it's your private residence or if it's a property that you want to rent out. Those are great investments over the long term. Antiques and collectibles are not as predictable, guys. I'm telling you that. So again, you don't have to sell it all. You can just sell some of it. You can sell certain cards. You don't have to sell the whole collection. But you got to get into a habit where you do from time to time lock in those gains that you've made, at least on paper. Otherwise, it's just a fugazi. It has no meaning. If you sit there and you bring me an item and you say, Sean, I paid $500 for this. It's now worth $2,000. What do you think I'm going to tell you? Prove it to me. Sell it for $2,000. Easiest way to prove that point. And going back to tip 1, again, I'm not telling you to sell items that you know you're not going to get again or relatively easy in the future. Those particular items you can hold a little bit longer. You can hold them long term if you need to, which ties in to point 3. You need to trade up and you need to sell up. This is something that a lot of you out there make mistakes in. You cannot build a collection, a world-class collection that is investment grade, full of common and uncommon items. There has to be items in that collection that are truly rare and truly scarce that major collectors, major market makers, major market manipulators want to buy and they want to move and they want to own. You must understand that. So if you're involved in a lot of these markets, I'll use Magic the Gathering as a prime example. If you're getting involved in Magic the Gathering, you can't just focus on common as day reserve list cards. You're going to have to try to trade up and get invested into the Power 9 cards, some of the Arabian Nights reserve list cards, some of the more iconic cards in that particular game that if you put that collection on the market, people are going to go, wow, this guy really knew what he was doing. I'm going to go after these cards that he has up for bid or up on auction because a lot of people want those particular cards. They're the blue chips in that collecting category. It's no different than what I do when I collect coins and currency. Coins, I want to start to trade up to the point where I own coins that are $50,000, $100,000 a piece, guys. That's really where I want to get to be at some point. Whether I only own 3 or 5 of those particular types of coins, that's really what I want to have in my collection. Now, I started with $2,000 coins. Then I started trading up to $5,000 coins. Now, I have certain coins in my collection that are worth $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 a piece. So you can see where I'm going on that trajectory. I'm going after very scarce, rare items that I know have a market for, to the point where when I sell them, there's going to be demand there, and I can use that money and I can trade up if I have to. The fourth piece of advice I have for you guys, and this is something that a lot of people make a mistake with, especially right now. Stop being so easily influenced by social media, society, and social media influencers by and large. And that ties right into myself and other YouTubers. A lot of you guys like me like listening to Gary Vee or Graham Stephan or even Rudy with Alpha Investments or SM Pratt or some of these other guys. And there's nothing wrong with that. A lot of them give good advice. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to attack anybody. But what I am saying is right now, we are in an age where social media dominance is influencing our investing, our buying, even our dating decisions, guys, are being really determined by people we don't even know and people we possibly don't even like. And that really says something about our culture by and large right now. You know, believe it or not, one of the most popular videos on this channel is the one where I talked about the advent and rise of Hermes Birkin bags. Now, that video did not get a lot of views with my core subscriber base. But outside of my core subscriber base, there's a lot of people that really enjoyed that video, that literally still to this day reach out to me and tell me that was such a groundbreaking video to come on YouTube from such an unknown channel, meaning this channel, Reserved Investments. So I take pride in that. But it just goes to show you that there's a lot of people out there that are so in this euphoric bubble of all these popular luxury collectibles and goods, whether we're talking Rolex watches, Hermes Birkin bags, driving Mercedes cars. And to be fair, I'm right there with them, guys. I don't want to misconstrue. Really, I have my own issues in that regard, okay? But I'm just saying, you have to stop being so easily influenced by a lot of these people that you encounter in business life or on YouTube. I guarantee you, Gary Vee is a very, very astute businessman. He is not, by his nature, though, in my opinion, an astute collector. So that's something that you got to be aware of going forward. You have to understand as to how these social media influencers can easily manipulate the market. The last tip that I have for you is you need to learn the difference between an investment and a store of value. An example of a store of value is gold. Another example of a store of value is certain rare antiques, certain historical artifacts, certain luxury timepieces. Hermes Birkin bags would fall into this category. So would very rare objects of value that pretty much will hold their value and keep up with inflation as years go by. That is not to be confused with an investment. An investment is supposed to outperform the rate of inflation and also potentially put money into your pocket. There are so many people on YouTube, on a lot of these collecting groups, on collecting forums that are confusing the two. I've said this before. Even blue chip collectibles, blue chip antiques are not always the wisest investments. That's why you can diversify with antiques and collectibles, but your core holdings should be in stocks, bonds, financial assets, real estate, possibly if you want to expose yourself to cryptocurrency, gold, silver. They're not really my favorite things, but if that's what you want to do, go ahead and do it. That's fine, as long as your core holdings are not in one of those categories. So I hope this video served you well. Again, these are the mistakes that I'm seeing in these markets right now. And I'm even seeing it on the antique side of the trade. It's not only on the collectible side of the trade. Let me assure you, prices in these markets are insane right now. I have more videos coming on that subject alone. Thanks for watching. Have a great day and stay safe.